Hi, Josh. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much. And thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. I guess we can start off with a little bit of introduction about yourself and maybe just introduce Hootsuite as well. And then we'll jump into some of our hacker questions.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm one of the team leads on our talent acquisitions team. Based in Vancouver. I'm actually originally from London, UK. Moved with Hootsuite to Vancouver about 2 years ago. Heading up our recruitment team, spanning across the globe. So we are hiring across Canada, US, as well as EMEA. In terms of pretty much Hootsuite, so we are a social media management platform, originally actually from Vancouver as well. Now it's been I think it's 12 years now, actually. Time flies when you're having fun. And of course, we are expanding rapidly. This year, we have a number of openings across a variety of portfolios, truly focus on our customer journey and really building a great product alongside our customer feedback. Recently, we also appointed our new CEO, Tom Kaiser. So it's been a great journey, definitely lots of changes across the last year. I think the pandemic has been one of a challenge, but equally an opportunity for us as a company. And certainly it's always great to be part of cmd-f as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that introduction. I think you mentioned a lot of key points there about yourself, moving from London, as well as the changes that are going on in Hootsuite. So I'd like to start off with a little bit about yourself. So just some questions. Did you say that in London you worked with Hootsuite as well, and then you moved to Hootsuite here?
Yeah, correct. Actually, I started at Hootsuite in the UK for 6 months and actually relocated to Vancouver headquarters.
Awesome. And so on a larger scale, including Hootsuite, but also outside, what has your career journey sort of been like? And why did you choose Hootsuite specifically out of all different places you could have gone to?
Totally. My career actually has been always in startups. So across EMEA, I worked in Berlin, Paris, and London. And really, my job was always to build an engineering teams from the ground up. Truly, my passion is culture and actually the product. And if both are aligned, I feel it's a great journey, really, and great story to join as well. Hootsuite has always been on my radar. It's a leader in terms of social media space. And equally, my passion also is to move to Canada. So I kind of marry both things at the same time. And really, I think what's special about Hootsuite are the people, actually. We truly believe in transparency, 360 feedback across our employees. So really the learning curve is a big piece of who we are. And I think another piece is actually innovation. So really across Hootsuite, we are not as big as Amazon or Microsoft. So really making impact or even initiating any projects or products is very easy. We don't have so many steps or so many bottlenecks. We actually encourage innovation and sort of breaking things and learning new things. And, we don't want to be stuck in doing certain things that way we are, because it's not really progressive. And especially in a social media space, it's a very fast moving environment. So we need to keep up externally, but also internally.
That makes sense. So you said that, you came from startups and you loved working with different sort of products. And you like building engineering teams, but then you also work in talent acquisition right now. So do you have an engineering background, or do you have more of like a business background with more so like an HR?
A blend, actually. So I started off in HR and business in business school in London. However, one of my jobs actually was to work at Google, and that's pretty much where I exposed myself to engineering and really the idea of building products and being creative whilst actually using coding was quite appealing to me. And I actually did some courses there and then the degree to follow up with that. So I kind of hold both sides of the coin, which actually allows me to understand, the hurdles of the product, what do we have to do and how do we actually engineer it versus, what workforce do we require as an organization as well. So kind of the blend allows me to understand the technical part. And then, of course, allow kind of the HR side to support the business itself.
Awesome. Yeah, I think as businesses move towards, I think just society right now is just moving towards a more tech-based future. And so no matter which role you're in, especially in business, it's just good to know how engineering teams work, since most businesses right now really focus on the tech side.
Totally.
And so I think you touched on this a little bit when you mentioned the people, but sort of the next question was going to be, what do you enjoy most about working at Hootsuite? So you can dig into like the people aspect a little bit more and talk about the culture, but if you have any other ideas, that'd be great to bring up as well.
No, of course. I think the people are the fundamental, reason why people join Hootsuite. Just because we spend so much time at work, right? And if we create a great culture where people are empowered, there is certain feel of belonging and connection, especially in an international business. I think we have now offices spanning and people being obviously remotely now across Canada, US, Romania, UK, Sydney. I think now more than ever, it's so important to actually create the feel of belonging across the board, really. And the collaboration as well. I think, the cross-functional collaboration in terms of projects, initiatives, actually something that we as a Hootsuite actually started off is a stretch program, which allows people across different divisions to join projects in different departments. So let's say a marketing person wants to delve into, let's say, a bit of a front-end engineering work. And of course, they are allowed to do that via the stretch program. Of course, meanwhile, they do kind of day-to-day, but equally have time carved out for the project itself. And of course, we've seen actually a lot of people moving into different departments, which actually correlates to organic growth. I think at Hootsuite, actually, we do encourage that, internal movements, and allowing people to move around, be it vertically, different product, different lines as well. We don't want to lose the talent. We don't want to lose great people, whereas we can actually create the opportunities internally as well. Another piece is definitely D&I. So diversity and inclusion is a big piece when it comes to how we structure our thought process. So even interviews are done utilizing certain criteria to remove any bias that is potential in making any decisions as well. We recently also appointed our new D&I manager, and she's been fantastic in terms of leading charge on variety of nonprofit partnerships. We were obviously involved in Black Lives Matters initiatives. Now with obviously Women's Day as well, there's so many things that definitely are covered. And I would say none of the organizations actually I've been before were actually putting so much emphasis in terms of D&I and actually making sure that people are appreciated for who they are actually. And diversity is a great thing. There is research behind teams being 30% at least more productive and efficient actually if they are diverse, and coming up with different ideas. And that's how we kind of structure the day-to-day at Hootsuite. So I would say people, and definitely the ways we work and how we actually care about employees.
That's awesome. I think you touched on a lot of different points there in terms of keeping up that motivation, letting people move within the company, as well as the big diversity inclusion aspect. I'd like to focus on the first part, and then we'll move to diverse inclusion right after and dig a little bit deeper. So in terms of, I have two questions. The first one, you talked about like people wanting to learn. It's a culture of sort of breaking things, always wanting to try different things, and Hootsuite really lets you do that. So in terms of, say I join as a software engineer, and I want to learn more about the marketing side, and really learn more about the business end of social media. What's that process sort of looking like, especially for a new grad position where someone might just come into Hootsuite? I know a lot of hackers here love the idea of working at Hootsuite. And so if they were to make that transition, if they want to learn more, what are the barriers that are in place for that? Or what are the paths to make that a lot easier that Hootsuite has that other companies might not?
Totally. So any co-op programs or even junior developers joining Hootsuite actually go through our comprehensive onboarding process, which actually consists of corporate onboarding, which navigates around the whole business. So pretty much all the departments, how it works, how product marketing, let's say, works with engineering, what's kind of the triad of engineering, design, and product, and how that kind of works from a process perspective, and actually understanding how to use Hootsuite. So we actually do send people to do our academy, which is our internal certification, similar to kind of Udacity or Udemy, but actually using Hootsuite and being certified to use it the proper way as well. And then apart from the onboarding process, actually, you will be stretched into the variety of product and projects. Meanwhile, you kind of onboard the first 6 months. And in the future, of course, there is plenty of opportunities to really delve into certain, marketing products or even different portfolios as well. So I would say we are the way we are geared is that we want people to actually understand how the overall business works as well. It's not about silos and actually just focusing, on your task only, but actually because we are so integrated together, makes us way more stronger as well. And again, we do follow a lot of the customer-centric approaches as an organization, and that helps us to actually be a better and more unified organization too.
Yeah. So when you take away those silos and you let people sort of blend in, work together, learn new things, is that also reflected sort of in the workspace? So I'm talking about like the physical office. A lot of offices have, those like little walls, cubicles that you work in. Is that similar at Hootsuite, or is it more like flow and people get to actually talk to each other and like move around, and it's like more interactive, I guess?
Totally. So definitely a weird time for all of us because we are all based remotely at the moment. And actually moving forwards, we also implemented a new strategy as a workforce policy. So we have flexibility. Some folks will want to remain remote and be based in, let's say, on a Vancouver island or somewhere else, really. And then, of course, we have flexibility plans. So people can actually go a couple of days in the office and a couple of days from home. Or should someone wish to, they can also go back to the office fully. Our office is actually very much an open space. So we do encourage that. People have sprint plannings, have daily stand-ups, and it's very interactive. I think what I personally actually miss as well is the random chats in the kitchen. You kind of stumble across someone who's from a variety of departments, and you sort of strike a conversation, and you start realizing actually there is something in common. We should grab a coffee or discuss, etc. What we actually did, because of remote means, we implemented something called random coffee chats internally. So it's almost like a matching kind of system where you throw your name into the hat, and then all of a sudden you actually randomly match with someone who can be based anywhere. You can be based in Vancouver. It can be matched with someone who's in Sydney or London or Belgium or somewhere else, really. Which again encourages the kind of flow of informations and the feel of belonging. I think that's really a big piece for us.
That's great to hear. I think just the ability to talk to people all around the world, but still have some sort of common thing to talk about, like your workplace and the different things that you work on is really valuable. So one last sort of question about this before we move on to like diversity and inclusion. You mentioned that you have the ability to work with people all around the world. And I know that, hopefully when COVID ends, a lot of people want to travel. They're like itching to go to different places. So this is a two-part question. The first is, how do you sort of maintain, so in like different offices, now that you've sort of worked based in London as well as in Vancouver, how do you sort of maintain the level of work in both places and make sure that everything is synced up? And then the second part of that is, if someone were to move across, like go overseas, what does that process look like, and does Hootsuite encourage that?
Totally. So in terms of the means how we stay connected, so we use Slack channels, we use Hangout, etc. So the communication kind of flow is always there. Regarding any pre-pandemic or post-pandemic situations, of course, we do fly people over to our headquarters when it comes to sprint planning or any big planning in general. And of course, we do want people to come here and actually have the feel of the headquarters. But now more than ever, we want all the offices to be equal in terms of how much ownership and how much innovation there is. And I think the pandemic even encouraged that, because we are all joining via Hangouts, and not necessarily having to kind of have to travel to Vancouver, for instance, right? So I think we've seen an increase of the feel that people are feeling connected, and actually there isn't such thing as headquarters versus smaller offices, etc. We recently also acquired a company, Spark Central, in Belgium, and it's also interesting how we kind of integrate them into our culture and who they are, etc. So understanding that and really listening to our employees and hearing what they want really as an organization is very important to us.
Awesome. That's really great to hear. So moving into diversity and inclusion, so you mentioned that Hootsuite's involved in a lot of different events. They're actively participating in the community to try to promote this, as well as internally. So just looking internal for like hires such as co-op or like new grad positions, what is their exposure to D&I as a part of the onboarding process? And like, do you guys have like weekly meetings or something like internally where people can actually learn more about it if they want to?
Totally. So each person actually joining Hootsuite is required to undergo an unconscious bias training, which kind of is the first step of blending into understanding your bias, what a D&I is really, how, diversity has so many different shapes and forms in terms of, diversity of thought even, so making decisions. Even our values as an organization, actually, we wanted to revamp that, and we are actually looking at that as we speak. We partner with a company called Paradigm, which helps us to actually understand, what are our values, how diversity fits into that, and how we then obviously interview people, the certain questions we ask, and really ensuring that we push the needle. I think, historically, unfortunately, tech specifically is very, wild, white male populated. I think we are as an organization actually pushing the needle because we truly see the value in this. And I think it takes a village. And that's why, our execs and all the people obviously included are extremely behind it and really encourage that. So having the advocates and the buyers that are from a top down, it really helps us as a TA team, but also as a people department to help with that. So I would say in terms of what kind of initiative they can actually be involved with. So we recently also appointed our diversity committee with our D&I manager, and they are actually carving out a variety of projects, anything from participating in nonprofit events, even internal trainings, and all of that kind of encompasses really the support that we require as an organization. I think there is always work to be done because it's such an evolving topic, and we have to be accountable individually as well. So it's great to educate the business, but actually educating yourself and being curious about it and passionate, it really starts with that.
Yeah, my next question was actually going to be, it's such an evolving topic. There's always room to learn. There's always room to improve, and the fact that Hootsuite is pushing the needle and always actively trying by listening to the community, by actively participating in a lot of different events. It's really great to hear.
Totally. And I think really it's worth to mention that D&I it's not a metric. Like we are not doing that because we want to hit the quota or get increase of our kind of numbers. But really what we've seen is way past it. It's actually how people interact with one another, how we build the culture piece, and really retaining people and making them feel welcome, really. I think that's the actual biggest aim for that.
Awesome. That's really great to hear. And just participating in events like cmd-f and also a range of others, it definitely shows that Hootsuite cares, and then it's definitely part of their values. So that's really great to hear. I think I want to sort of shift over to more of a focus on co-ops and internships, because I know a lot of our hackers really want to know more about that. So I was wondering if you could maybe outline just a general co-op process. So just from the resume stage all the way up until the onboarding, just a recruitment cycle. If you could just outline that for our viewers.
Totally. So we actually run 2 cohorts across the year. So we have a summer one, which is kind of currently happening, and we actually start in May. And then we also do one in September, which is kind of the fall cohort. In terms of the how it works, so we obviously open our requisitions. So please do follow obviously your university career pages or even ours as well, and do apply as soon as you see it. I would say I do encourage actually people to apply in a creative ways. If you have any ideas of exposing your projects or ways to actually apply, we receive some videos, even like video resumes. Even some people actually send out like Pinterest kind of profiles or design, etc. So anything of that really exposes you to, really showing yourself actually who you are as a person to Hootsuite itself. As soon as you apply, we then review. So we actually have a team on our talent acquisition that specifies purely on our recruitment for co-ops. And of course, then the first step is actually an interview with the recruiter. It's a quick kind of screening in terms of who you are, what you do, more to do with your projects. And as soon as that's done, we then invite you for a mixture of, we call it on-site final interview, which is a very collaborative interview with 2 of our developers, and then also a bit of a behavioral round of questions, so typically 2 hours, and that actually concludes the whole process. So it's a very quick process from that point. I would say we tend to move very quickly. So it's pretty much, I would say 10 days to 2 weeks. It's the kind of turnaround from the time you actually apply up until you actually receive a feedback from our end as well.
Wow, that's really fast. I think that's, as a student myself, that's like very much appreciated, because sometimes we apply to a lot of different companies for these jobs, internships, and then it takes so long to hear back. So it's good that there's sort of like a range that we can look to, and it's not too long. And yeah, that definitely helps us from just an applicant point of view. So
totally, and we want to make your life obviously easy and actually enjoyable. I think throughout the actual interview, you're gonna get to know us, who we are, some folks on the actual team, engineering teams. So do actually ask questions. During the interviews, it's really appreciated if you are curious about what you're gonna do on a daily basis, how the process works, etc. Obviously, they are there to answer those. And actually, we do have a lot of folks that used to be co-ops. They started their career as co-ops at Hootsuite, and then went back to school, and then came back as a full-time jobs as well. Which actually leads to another thing to mention, that we tend to actually rehire people from co-ops. If you do co-ops with us, we truly want you to be back with us. Hopefully, you enjoyed your time as we did, and certainly, I think the process is there to be enjoyed. It's I know it's very stressful. You certainly interviewing in many places, so we do want to make it fast, easy, actually enjoyable as well.
Yeah, and I think you talked about some of the creative sort of resumes that you've gotten, like videos, really like different Pinterest styles. But there's always this like fear that if you you hear a lot about like ATS and like those resume filters, as well as like when you apply, like should you add a lot of color? Is it professional? Things like that. So would you recommend, again, just to clarify, like a more creative approach, like a human recruiter sees all the applications, or how does that sort of work as well?
Totally. I would say on our end, actually, we do encourage the creative approach. I think be yourself. I think really the resume actually is a reflection of who you are as a person, right? I think it's a reflection of your professional, obviously, achievements in terms of projects or internships, etc. But actually showing a bit of yourself as a human being and your personality is greatly appreciated. I think it should be that way, and really, again, in terms of means or ways to approach us, it can be via email, it can be via, we had some people even tweeting at us as well. We had some people that we hire from, obviously, hackathons, or even things like cmd-f or Hack the North, and so on and so forth. So there's many means we actually can be approached. I don't think there's a golden rule. Like there is no like black and white way. I think the challenge is when obviously we receive a number of applicants actually, and it's how do you stand out then? I think being creative actually is one way of being out of the crowd kind of thing. But equally, what I recommend is also participate in any extra activities. I think Olympiads, or some initiatives, project on your own. Some actually, I would really admit that some of the co-ops we actually have applying to us, they already, let's say, had some ideas for projects or how to improve Hootsuite and so on and so forth. So I think we really welcome that.
Well, that's great to hear. I think you always want to try to stand out as much as possible, and really show yourself. So yeah, that's
totally
great. So,
and I would also encourage people to network. I think it can be daunting and it can be a scary world out there in terms of you are potentially in a second year or third year, etc. And how do you tackle that? I think LinkedIn to some extent your friend, because you can actually network with people in different departments. Being curious, how is working on at Hootsuite, or I think that's a good question really to ask people. And networking does help. You can then actually navigate, is the culture for me, who do I approach, etc. So don't be phased by that. I think try it.
Awesome. So say you stand out during the recruitment, like the resume stage. You've networked and you already know some of the people that might be interviewing you, and you build like great relationships with them, and then you move towards that final part, and like the behavioral or like different questions you might get. And you sort of killed it. Now you're at the company. What sort of mentorship opportunities are there? Would you work on like a specific project, or do you just jump onto like a project that's already been in place? What do co-ops generally sort of work on?
Totally. So during actually joining Hootsuite, you'll be paired with a number of engineers on a team. Those can be from senior to intermediate as well, and really being part of the team. So as a co-op, you really truly feel like you are a part of the team and you contribute and you are there during the actual discussions. Typically, you do actually rotate in a variety of parts of the project. So you will see, let's say, parts of the maintenance, some of the parts of greenfield projects. So you have a good overall kind of knowledge of how is it actually work at Hootsuite. And I would say part of obviously the mentorship program is also to connect with people from other teams as well. So having the ability to actually see what other people do and how to network with them, like actually set you up for success in the future as well. Awesome.
So, so you do get exposure to multiple different like areas of the business. You probably have like a specific team that you work with, but you also get to, I think like you mentioned, you get to have coffee chats with different people right now with the remote setting. So that includes like co-op and interns as well, just to be able to talk to people at your office, but also around the world as well.
Totally, yes. So you're a part of our team across the globe. Of course, we are dedicated to certain projects. Yeah. However, the exposure is certainly there.
Awesome. So we're coming up on time. I just have one final question for you. Sure. So if you had to describe Hootsuite in one word or phrase, what would it be? And then maybe just like a quick explanation on why.
Oh, that's a good one. I would say connected. I think our job is really to allow people to be connected as customers, but actually within Hootsuite we are truly very connected, and the way we kind of work, the way we have the cross-functional project, the stretch programs, and then truly as a people department, we do want people to be connected. So the random coffee chats, etc., those really help. I think, and the connection also means that we are not working in silos, but we actually work in teams. It's Josh cannot build the whole Hootsuite, but actually Josh with the rest of the team and the rest of the ideas can really achieve greater things.
I think that's a really interesting word to pick, and I think it sort of just sums up everything that we've talked about till now. Just the ability to connect with everybody around the world, no matter where you are, kind of reflects your journey as well from different offices in Hootsuite. So yeah, I think that's a good way to sort of wrap up. Thanks for joining, for answering all of our questions, and I hope that all the hackers watching learned something new about Hootsuite. And so yeah, thank you so much.
No, it was a pleasure having me. Thank you so much. And yeah, good luck everyone, and hopefully to see you in Hootsuite soon.
Awesome.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.